the US has got other plans for the money. You may be surprised to
Oh, I
hear.
see. Okay.
In the draft US peace plan for Ukraine that was leaked last month, it said that $100 billion of this frozen money that's frozen in Europe would go towards joint Russian and US efforts to.
Your story this afternoon reports that Washington and the Trump administration are privately warning against Europe from handing over frozen Russian assets worth billions to Ukraine. This is significant. It's funds being held in Belgium. EU leaders will meet tomorrow to discuss the release of these Russian resources. They're worth $210 billion. And it's expected that the US will advise against this. Are these private discussions, David, that are happening behind the scenes, or will the US make more of a public move on this, do you think?
So far, what we've been picking up is a lot of private pressure by the Americans on the Europeans to not make the decision tomorrow, which is being planned, which is to basically grab all this Russian money frozen in Europe and to use a large chunk of it to fund loans to Ukraine because Ukraine is going bust. Its domestic budget is probably going to be exhausted by next spring or summer, and they need billions of euros, an estimated 135 billion euros to keep Ukraine going for the next 2 years. So Europe is hoping to find the lion's share of that from these assets. And I should say one of the reasons for the Ukraine budget crisis is that the US has stopped all funding under the Trump administration, as you know.
Mm.
So that really leaves a big issue for the Europeans. Do they want to risk antagonizing not just Russia by using their money, their frozen assets, but also antagonizing the Trump administration, which the view I'm told privately is that they're trying to keep pressure on Ukraine to come to the peace deal, and they think that this will take the pressure off Ukraine a bit if the money is agreed, and that's the thinking in Washington.
Yeah, so look, the nervousness of the Belgian Prime Minister over this, the majority of funds are held in Belgium, and he's worried that he might be, or that his country, and this is a significant proportion, by the way, of the country's GDP. I mean, it would absolutely bankrupt the country if they had to repay this kind of money back. His concerns have been echoed by the United States. Clearly, they think there is an issue with the legality of this.
That's right, because the US has got other plans for the money. You may be surprised to
Oh, I
hear.
see. Okay.
In the draft US peace plan for Ukraine that was leaked last month, it said that $100 billion of this frozen money that's frozen in Europe would go towards joint Russian and US efforts to rebuild in the war zone. So in Ukraine and whichever bits of whatever happens to the Donbass region. So and a further chunk of the money would go into separate US Russian investments, and we're not really sure what that's for because that wasn't made clear in the document. So we've got a situation here where the US has very different plans for the money and is also saying, look, if the Europeans start giving it to Ukraine, that will make peace less likely. And as I say, this pressure has been built up quite fantastically behind the scenes, we hear, ahead of a big vote of the EU nations tomorrow in Brussels.
Yeah. We are going to cover that story at the European Council meeting to discuss it, because we may get word from the US. We may have a better understanding, really, I suppose, of how much their concerns have permeated some of the European leaders who've been, well, it's the Belgian Prime Minister and then some of the usual suspects, Hungary included, really, who have signalled their discontent over the unfreezing of these assets. But we'll perhaps get a better gauge on it tomorrow. We'll be joined by the Russia expert Bill Browder on the show, and we'll also speak to someone who's been close to these discussions as well. OK, well, we'll wait and see what happens in Brussels tomorrow on that one. It'll be a big day. Let's talk Venezuela now, because we saw, didn't we, the US seize that Venezuelan oil tanker last week, and now Donald Trump has ordered a complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers moving in and out of Venezuela as he continues his offensive against President Maduro. Trump gave this update on the drug cartels yesterday.
I have to say the drugs coming in by sea are down 94%, and we're trying to figure out who the other 6% are. But they're down 94%, and we're going to start hitting them on land, which is a lot easier to do, frankly. But these are a direct military threat to the United States of America. They're trying to drug out our country. We're dismantling the cartels very rapidly, and they are being declared enemies of the United States of America.
That's Donald Trump there. Is he effectively saying that those tankers or the oil on it belongs to the United States, David?
Well, I'm not sure what he's saying about the tankers, because this doesn't seem to fit with the argument that the blockade is necessary to stop the drugs coming to America, which is the ostensible reason for the blockade. And it seems to fit more into the narrative that Trump actually does want regime change in Venezuela, and this is pressure to starve the economy, such as it is of Venezuela, which relies on making money from oil exports. That's how it's been seen in the region, and we've seen the Mexican president today call on the United Nations to intervene to prevent, quotes, bloodshed in Venezuela. So there's a lot of nervousness in the region that when Trump talks about not only blockading the country's ports, but moving on land with the strikes, with the airstrikes against what he would say is obviously drug runners, that this is increasingly looking like something bigger than a crackdown on the cartels, or on the drugs leaving Venezuela, I should say. Because as we've discussed before, the Trump administration has designated the government of Venezuela as a cartel. And so the read across from that, of course, if they're trying to get rid of the cartels, are they really trying to get rid of the government?
Yeah. I'm looking at his Truth Social post. For the theft of our assets, many other reasons, including terrorism, drug smuggling and human trafficking, the Venezuelan regime has been designated a foreign terrorist organisation. Therefore, today I'm ordering a total and complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers. I mean, this will financially cause an incredible amount of damage to Venezuela. Is that what he's hoping for, so that they might, I don't know, get around the negotiating table, concede to him? What's he looking for?
Well, interestingly, there's a very big interview with Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, in Vanity Fair this week, which I might get onto.
Yes, we know all about that, but yes, go on.
Touches upon this Venezuela issue. She basically says that Donald Trump is hoping that Maduro will cry uncle, basically meaning that he'll give in and he'll go away, and that's the real. Sort of letting the cat out of the bag, seemingly, saying that's the real reason for this massive military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. But at the same time, she also acknowledges that it is Congress who's given the power to declare war in the Constitution and traditionally. And so if this was to move on land, Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, has said Trump needs to get support from Congress. And of course, he's shown no sign of doing that so far.
Now, talking of that Vanity Fair piece on Susie Wiles, which was 11 interviews, I think, over the course of the year with the journalist in question. She said in those interviews, which have completely confused everyone and caused, of course, the Trump administration to call it a hit job, she claimed that Donald Trump had an alcoholic's personality, J.D. Vance was a conspiracy theorist, and Elon Musk used ketamine almost daily while working for the president. And there's a whole lot more in there, as you've referenced. You've been speaking to the author of the article, David.
I have. He's a chap called Chris Whipple, and he got these interviews with Susie Wiles because he's a long-standing author of books about chiefs of staff, and so he knows a lot of the historic chiefs of staff, and was introduced to Susie Wiles and earned her trust. And as you say, several invitations to the White House, 11 interviews over the course of 11 months. It's a fascinating look into the first year of the Trump administration. He says it's not a hit job at all. He says that Susie Wiles invited him in because in the first term there were no serious writers writing about what Trump was really doing, and she wanted this serious writer to come in and write about it. But of course, they don't like what he's written. And accusing him of taking all her remarks out of context, notably not denying that she made the remarks, but saying
Yes.
that they were taken out of context.
Yeah.
That's one describing Trump as having an alcoholic's personality. I think we just need to say that it's Susie Wiles's father was a very well-known former American footballer and sports commentator called Pat Summerall in America, who was a well-known. He'd struggled with alcoholism for much of his life, and she had to manage that. And she says in the interview, "I've had a lot of experience of big personalities," because he was famously a very big personality, and I know the type of personality. Of course, Trump has never touched a drop. He's one of his brothers.
No, this is true.
He died young because due to his alcoholism.
Okay, and you're writing this up for the paper, are you, David? Because I've not seen anything from you yet, but this is something that you're going to be writing
up. It may be online. It may be online soon. I'm not sure about
very good.
Let's see how
Watch this space. Very, very briefly. I've got about 30 seconds. Trump's making a big announcement at 9 o'clock Eastern time, so in 5 hours' time. Do we know anything about what he's going to say?
So far, we've just been told that he wants to talk about his year and reassure the Americans that even if they're not feeling better off, they will do very soon because of his one big beautiful bill that was passed in the summer. So they are going to feel better off. And I think he's really been stung by this affordability crisis that's helped the Democrats win lots of elections recently, lots of local and state elections recently. And it's an attempt to get back on the front foot on the economy, I think. But as with Trump, you never quite know exactly what's going to happen. So a lot of all the networks have cleared their schedules for 9 o'clock tonight here.